Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canada CPA Online Academy, sharing the wisdom. So today we have a very special guest, Matt. Matt Tompkins is with us today. So he is a CPA and recently launched a new business, HeyCPA, which is essentially a job board for all the CPAs. So he's here with us to talk about his journey towards CPA, the transition into business, and various aspects of CPA. Okay, so welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Deepa.
Thank you for doing this interview with me. And we'll start with something about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your journey towards CPA path, and things like that.
For sure, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Um, so my path was a little unordinary, I guess. I went to UBC originally and went on a bit of a baseball scholarship there. So was not thinking about business,
Right.
accounting, anything. I don't even really remember what I did my first year in university. I was just kind of focused on baseball. And when that dream kind of came to an end, it was a rude awakening because I kind of thought, what am I going to do now? I always thought I would play professionally in some capacity. So kind of stumbled around for a couple of years at UBC and then eventually got into the business program there. Didn't do accounting originally. So I originally did finance and entrepreneurship, graduated from UBC, and then went into commercial banking. So basically like small business lending. Did that for 2 years and it was pretty good. It was a good experience to like deal with clients and stuff, which eventually I would use with my CPA at PwC. But always kind of wanted something more. I was thinking of an MBA, thinking of law school, and then had a few friends do the diploma of accounting program at UBC. So decided to enroll in that. So only had to pick up 5 courses, luckily, because I was working full time at the same time. So it was
Right.
probably my busiest year ever. And then, yeah, applied to PwC, luckily got in, and 3 long, hard years later, passed the CFE, had a few long, busy seasons, but that's kind of how it all unfolded, the long and the short. Yeah, but it was a great experience overall. Always looking back on it, great experience. Throughout it, it was
Yeah.
kind of challenging. And then, yeah, from there, started my own little boutique firm, Elevate Financial. And then, as you mentioned recently, a few weeks ago, just started HeyCPA, which is a job board created specifically for CPAs. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You're saying that it just happened, but we everyone knows like it just doesn't happen. You have like a lot of efforts, and you need to have that ability to yeah, navigate towards this accounting world. It needs a different kind of patience. People feel accounting is very easy, but it's not. Especially CPA path is tough. Yeah, it's not.
totally. And I think sometimes people forget that. They think um, once they get the initial job at whatever firm they choose, or if they start in industry at a different company, they kind of think, okay, I'm in the CPA program, I've made it. But it's so challenging. And I found the most challenging part wasn't necessarily the content; it was just managing your job, the modules, weekly assignments, a social life, a family.
Yeah, that's true.
There's so many different facets to it that it's one of those things that whenever I hear someone going through it, I have so much respect for them because it's a big challenge.
It's tough, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you joined PwC. So
Mhm.
it's a big four is a big thing, you know. So do you think big four is a necessary milestone in all this CPA journey? Because there is a limit like how much big four can absorb. So there are a lot of CPAs who still go through like SMEs type of firms and boutique
Mhm.
firms and things like that. So what do you think? What are the pros, cons? Is it necessary to have a big four tag? What do you say?
No. Yeah, long and the short, no, it's definitely not needed. I think the reason why it's touted as probably the best route is because they have the largest marketing budget,
Yeah.
to put it simply. They're the ones at all the universities doing all the pitches. It's promoted as a very sexy position, for lack of a better term. But I think it just all depends on what you want to do, which is easier said than done when you're maybe 22. How would you know what you want to do? I didn't at all. But I think if you're wanting to work for a super large corporation one day, Big Four is maybe a good route because they have some of the biggest clients in the world. At PwC, I worked with multi-billion-dollar mining companies, so very interesting that way. But if you're looking to go more the small, medium-sized business route, or thinking of opening your own business one day, I think the smaller firm is probably better. They work
Yeah.
more, they're more in the details, they see more of the full cycle of an entire business. Whereas, for example, one of my clients, I'd spend 9 months a year on one client, and have one section.
Yeah.
So
I
my
know.
last year I had PP&E. That's it.
Yeah.
So you don't get to see the entire picture. Again, pros and cons to everything, but I think people put too much weight on where they get their CPA.
Yes.
I think you can pivot and maneuver, especially now with social media and LinkedIn, especially. You can kind of position yourself however way you want without necessarily having that firm behind you.
Yeah.
It's not the same stamp of approval as it used to be, quote unquote. So I encourage people to not necessarily listen to what they hear in the media and just kind of like go with their gut feeling. And if their gut feeling says like, I want to work somewhere smaller on a smaller team, go
Yeah.
do it. It won't
Yeah.
hurt you in the long run.
Right. I think it's more of a peer pressure as well. Like he got into PwC, she got into EY, and like when you start
100%.
hearing in that, and then when you're not able to get in, it's like something is missing. But so many students I see approach me and frustrated like how to get in Big Four, and it's like they feel like their CPA path ends if they don't get into that
Totally.
Big Four. So that's why I wanted to bring this up, that it's not
Yeah.
end of the world, it's just the start of the journey. I personally come from a very small firm. I did my articleship, like we call it articleship, in a smaller
Yeah.
firm, and it's not zoned as you were saying. It's like I have entered receipts in a bag, like entering the receipts from
Yeah.
a polythene bag. Those type of clients to like the multi-million dollar businesses, tax, audit, risk, internal audit, everything you get the exposure to, because there is not a lot of specialized teams for doing that. So
For sure. For
that is
sure.
a
And I think that's a great point you made about there's no one path. Like,
yes.
and your journey's so long. Like even I'm thinking right now, I'm 30, and it's like I've kind of just bounced around. Like it's
Yes.
like I went the Big Four route, which might be like the typical route, but then I quit and start my own thing, which no one else did, and then I kind of start a different business that it has something to do with accounting, but I'm not actually doing accounting work as part of
Right.
the business. So
Right.
I think there's different seasons in a career, and it's like you can kind of hop around and choose what best fits that season for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you were mentioning the switch. So tell us a little bit about, like, you made this switch around COVID time, transition period, like
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of things happened. Was it like you were reaching to that and only COVID made that decision to take that jump, or
Uh,
it was not COVID related? It was, what was the thought process there?
yeah. So I started Elevate Financial August 2020, I believe. So we're about like 5 months into the 4 or 5 months into the pandemic, then kind of peak pandemic.
Peak pandemic.
Um, yeah, and like I knew at that point I wasn't going to stay at PwC. I didn't want to be a manager. I didn't want to be a partner. So probably about around May 2020, I was starting to interview with companies, and honestly, just every single one, I was like, I just don't know if I want to do it.
Mhm.
Nothing was really that appealing to me. And it could have been a bit of the COVID blues. You're at home doing the same thing every day, but I would get through these interview processes and nothing really clicked for me. And then I never really thought about starting my own firm. I had actually a buddy he's 4 years older than me, but from my hometown, has a really successful small business, and they were in need of like basically a fractional controller.
Mhm.
And he reached out and he's like, "Hey, can you do it?" And I was like, "Sure, like maybe."
Yeah.
And then so kind of got the ball rolling with him. And then he's like, "Okay, why don't you start like September 1st? That's the beginning of our fiscal year." I was like, "Sure." So did that. not knowing, again, I was just like, okay, like I'll leave PwC, kind of have some part-time work and figure it out. And then he was the one, actually, he's like a bit of a serial entrepreneur, and he was like, you should start your own business. Like, why don't you do this for multiple clients at once? You have the capacity, get a website, get it going. And then so a month later, that's when it kind of really took off, was like end of September, early October. And then from there, like I started to love it. Like I loved sourcing new clients. I loved kind of creating the content behind it. I loved creating the story behind the brand. And that kind of led me, 2 years down the path now almost. And it was probably the best decision I've made, both like professionally and financially. So
That's awesome. Like, so many people have that germ in there that they want to do something different. They don't want to do this traditional accounting, but
yeah.
only the brave souls, I think, take the leap. So congratulations on
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so then from that, now you have added one more business venture, that is
Yeah.
HeyCPA. So tell us a little bit about HeyCPA.
Yeah. So HeyCPA was kind of born almost like 2 years ago. Like when I was going back and thinking about my time applying for jobs, I was like, this is painful. You go on Indeed or LinkedIn and you apply, and it's like you're the 1500th application.
Yeah.
Or like a job goes up on LinkedIn and it's like there's 750 applications. Like, what? It was updated like 5 hours ago. So I found that process painful. It's like a lot of it had to be through connections. I don't have, I've grown my network the last couple of years, but before that, it's not like I come from a super wealthy family or something and have all these connections. I just like didn't have that. So I found the job search super difficult and painful. Hence why I started Elevate. And then it kind of clicked, like, a few months ago, I was like, I'd like something a little bit more scalable, a little bit more productized, something that, like, I hate this term, but like you can make money while you sleep.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I always thought the job search process was painful for CPAs. So why don't we try that? And then slowly started digging around, didn't really see any niche job boards. Like I didn't see anything, to be honest, which was a little concerning, because usually like if a market's crowded, it means it's successful. But I was like, I'll take a shot. And so launched that just a few weeks ago, and it's been quite, I don't want to call it successful. It's been quite an interesting journey so far. We've got some great jobs up there. We've gained some traction, and I think it's a great place to go for people looking for a job right now who don't want to go the Indeed or LinkedIn route, because I'm trying to get it off the ground. I'm hustling to get applications in there. So what I'm doing for people who apply, it's like I'll reach out to the companies directly for you.
Right.
Because
Right.
I'm trying to do those like unscalable activities to try and scale it.
Yeah.
So I've been like urging people in my network, like, if you want to apply for a job on there, just shoot me a message and I will gladly
Yeah.
assist you along the way. And now that I've seen lots of applications and lots of resumes, like I've kind of have an idea of what works, what doesn't. So yeah, I guess for your audience too, it's like if anyone has questions about that, like feel free to reach out, because
Yeah.
I'm happy to help. I think
Yeah.
it's
A
a super
lot of
important step. So
yeah, a lot of my audience is especially immigrant students who are CAs from other countries, and they're doing CPA because it's not a transferable, like we have to work again, give an exam to get CPA degree here. So a lot
right.
of that audience is like that, and I know the struggle, like more than for my channel is for CFE, but the number of messages that I get for job is like that is way
Yeah.
more than the actual questions about CFE.
Right. Right.
So
Direct them all my way.
yeah. Okay, everyone go to Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because I
what
know
would
it.
you yeah, so
Sorry, go ahead.
what would be your advice for them? Because until they get a CPA, I have seen so many candidates. I know personally so many of my friends. They have great experience. They have great education. Just because there is not that CPA stamp of the local
Right.
designation here, they struggle to find the roles of that desired level. So I would really like your help when, like, you are the midpoint, right? You're talking to the
Right.
companies, and on
Yeah.
the other end there are students. So it's like, it is required to have that education to the employers that this is a very skilled market, they are able to do
Yeah,
it, and if they are working towards the designation, you can't find
totally.
a best fit for the role. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, there, like, we actually have a great job up on HeyCPA right now that with a small firm. I think there's 12 people there, growing super fast, and it's for a tax associate. And in their job description, it says like working towards or has CPA. So someone, I think, in your audience who has their CA in India and then working towards their CPA in Canada, like, great fit for them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so trying to find jobs like that, and I've seen more and more companies saying working towards. And
Hmm.
so, like, finding those keywords is crucial. But the other part of it is, so that's one answer and one way you could go. The other part is like showing kind of your authority in the space.
Hmm.
That might not be the right word, or your like expertise. So it's super awkward for accountants to kind of create content and like put ourselves out there that way. But I found that to be the most enticing and easiest way to land either a client or a job, is to share your thoughts on a current event, or there's a new standard change with IFRS, for example, IS 16. And it's like, well, what are your thoughts on that? Where do you think they went wrong? And how do you think companies should implement it? Would be an example of an article they could write, post
Hmm.
it on LinkedIn, post on social channels, whatever it may be. And then you just start getting kind of noticed by these different employers. And then you can also just send it to them. And I always tell candidates to don't be shy. Like, if you're going to apply for a job, usually it says like reporting to, or you'll see the hiring manager on LinkedIn or something along those lines, or just do a Google search and see who's working there and shoot them an email. Send them a message on LinkedIn. Be like,
Yep.
hey, I sent in my application. I love your company. I think I'd be a good fit. This is what I can bring to the table. Hope to hear from you soon. And it
Yep.
can be that simple. And it can be casual. It doesn't have to be filled with all this academic jargon. So I think, yeah, to reiterate, it's like, number one, I think working towards a CPA with, I mean, you already have a chart, you already have your chartered accountancy in India. So I think that should count as well. Looking for jobs along those lines, and then also creating the content to kind of like gain awareness and be like, I do have that expertise that's needed. And like I said, like we have one job up there right now that is kind of perfect for that. So yeah, that would be probably my two like pieces of advice for them.
Yeah, great advice. Like I
Yeah.
was I was reading, someone shared on LinkedIn today that the 99 and 1% ratio. So 90% of the LinkedIn audience are just surfers. They just read,
Yeah.
not even would click like or
Like a
comment
like, yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Yeah, nothing. The 9% is the one who at least respond to others' content, and they would
yeah,
comment or share or something, and there is only 1% who create. And I have been following your content as well, but like I also personally felt that, like, when I started creating my own content and my own whatever I have to say and from my experience
yeah,
and things, like, then the people started chasing me. So instead of me chasing others, that
totally.
became a reverse process, and I made so many new meaningful connections where I got referred to like different things, and like this interview, like this, so I reached out to
Yeah,
you looking at this. So these things happen, which is in your own bubble. So identify your bubble, your specialization, and create that content. I think that helps definitely.
for sure. And it takes time, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a long game. But for example, like trying to fill a few roles right now in HeyCPA, and there's a couple of people that popped up on my timeline here and there, and I was like, I just remembered them, and I sent
Yeah.
them a message on LinkedIn like this morning. I was like, hey, you should apply for this job. Like, I think you'd be a good fit.
Yeah.
Um, so that's an example of they probably never even seen the job, and one person replied back, oh, like, thanks. Like, yeah, well, I was looking for a job actually. So stuff like that, when you're just kind of like in front of different eyes, like people do remember names, even if you're maybe not. And my word of advice would be, don't pay attention to the likes, don't pay attention to all those vanity
Yeah.
metrics. Just pay attention to like the actual like true connections you're making, like what me and you did, or like ones in the past that actually have taken it off LinkedIn, and now like I text a few people that like I just met on LinkedIn. So pay attention to that. Don't pay attention to just the dopamine hit
Just the
from the
numbers. Yeah.
likes. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's true.
So
That's true. Yeah,
yeah,
very true. It is very easy to go into that rabbit hole of likes and analytics and things like that. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, yeah,
just keep creating, keep talking to real people, and it grows organically.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
right. And yeah, so I noticed like some of the jobs on HeyCPA are from the newer type of fintech
Hmm.
industries, what we can say like crypto and blockchain and things like that.
Yeah.
So like whenever you're scanning the resume, does a traditional CPA education fit in for these roles? Like I know like the what a controller would still do controller thing. Financial manager would still have the same responsibilities across.
Hmm.
But do you think you need something else for these type of roles? Any additional education or anything?
I think you need a background on like how DeFi or how a certain cryptocurrency, if they're specific in Ethereum or Bitcoin or um, like one was Polymath that was on there, like having a little bit of experience with that. Yes, I think it's relevant, but that experience could be you just like logging onto Coinbase and buying $100 of Ethereum and just knowing what that actual process looks like,
Mm-hmm.
knowing how it works. It's not necessarily like you need to be an expert because these companies have those people who are the experts, but now they need someone to actually like refine and kind of rein in and like because they are still a company, they still need to report. A lot of them are public companies. They still need to follow all the same guidelines.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say you need any extra education. It would just be like definitely an interest. I think that's probably the biggest thing. You need to be interested in that space, and then just a little bit of a surface level understanding of how it all works.
Okay.
But probably the reason why I've been posting those, and I think those are so important, is just how much the space is growing. It's supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
growing at 85% cumulative annual growth rate
Yeah.
annually over the next decade. And I think it's going to basically, for lack of a better term, like eat the world and eat the financial system.
Yeah.
So it's just a great space to be in,
Yeah.
especially if you're a young CPA and getting your foot in the door early. So
Yeah. And I think those newer companies have like great culture benefits and
yeah,
more open to like maybe it is remote working or work from wherever and vacations, and
totally.
I have seen those are more open culture type of.
For sure. And because their main concern is talent. They don't care where you are.
Mhm.
They just want to make sure they're getting the right people in the right place. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So everyone please apply to these roles as well.
yeah,
Don't be
yeah,
shy, don't be afraid. Like you can
no,
like do a YouTube
everyone can do it.
course, yeah, Skillshare course
Yeah,
on crypto and go for it.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, so the next question is like the job cuts, like whatever is happening
Mhm.
last month, the market, US is down, so many job cuts. And on the other side, we are seeing all these lot of new opportunities, especially for CPF field. So what is your take on that?
Yeah. First, I do think we're heading into. I think we are in a recession, and I think we will chop around here for the next 8 to 12 months in terms of. And what I mean by chop around is like the stock market. I think it's all these kind of like bounces up and down. Like I think we'll see that for the next year or so and go a little bit lower. Um, and I think companies just got too far ahead of themselves. So you saw a lot of companies go public, and then they're like, "We're going to hire 2,400 employees," and it's like, why would you do that and how are you can do that? So you see them now cutting back, interest rates going up, money's getting more expensive, so they can't get the cheap debt. So you have all these compounding factors. But the beauty of like a bear market or a recession is the winners stay around. So like you still
Yeah,
have these companies who are going to be like, perfect, now's our time to build and get all the talent we can. So that's why you've seen amazing jobs for CPAs. Like some of the jobs I've seen, like, wow, like they're awesome from nice, good, reputable companies, because they're in the driver's seat. They have free cash flow. They're not losing millions and millions of dollars every month. And it's their time to gobble up this talent. And even if it means they're now over hiring during this period, then when the next run up happens, they're going to be ready to
yeah,
capture that gain. So yeah, I think recessions and bear markets in general are just like the best time to build. So if you're a CPA, it's like build your skill set. Don't pay attention to the market. focus on getting in with a quality company that's growing at a fairly significant rate, profitable, and I think there's gonna be some really great opportunities next year, even though from the outside looking in, it doesn't look like that, but there definitely will be. So
yeah, and I think what people miss is like not every company gets affected, right? There are some
for sure,
companies who are actually benefited through something, and so find out that specific company and go with that growth. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's about finding the right ones. And I mean, if you're thinking about like equity compensation, stock options, it's like, well, this is a perfect time because some of these growth companies have gone down, 60, 70%. You get hired on, maybe you get a few stock options, and then when the next run up happens in the market, you can also capitalize on that. So there's a lot of things that can be flipped around and looked at as a positive as opposed to a negative.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and we have seen Elon Musk declared compulsory back to office.
Yeah.
He's trying to take to the other direction. Do you
Yeah.
think other companies would follow, or everyone will stick to their own culture?
That's such a good question. I think for a company like Tesla or SpaceX, it potentially makes sense. He's literally trying to go to Mars. He's trying to change the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
innovation.
I kind of understand where he's coming from. For a lot of companies, though, I don't think they'll be able to do that. Tesla's got one of the strongest brands in the world. People want to work for them. They have people knocking on their door every minute of the day in terms of like talent trying to work there. So he's an anomaly, I think. I don't think if other companies trying to try this, I don't think it will work. I think still the route to go is like flexibility and remote work. And even Tesla, like, if someone's there and they've really enjoyed dropping their kids off at school, or they maybe just they move to a different city or town, he might see some people leave. But the thing is with that company is he'd have people enter right away as well.
Yeah. More into innovation space. Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't think the average company will be able to do that. And when I've seen companies try this in Vancouver, and they're kind of, I don't want to say boring, but just kind of status quo. There isn't nothing. They're not innovating the next rocket ship to go to Mars or anything. They're just kind of doing basic things. I'm trying to be careful so I don't name any names. And they are doing kind of a force back to the office, and it's not working.
Not going well.
No applications for jobs. People leaving like crazy, and so I think you'd see that for most companies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. I think we covered most of it. Any closing piece of advice, and where can people find you? How to connect with you?
Yeah, I think for your audience, it goes back to it's a marathon, not a sprint. And it's cliche, but it's one of those things where it's like when we're looking at content or something like that, just keep doing it. It's about consistency. It's not about going viral. Don't be discouraged when you get a few no's at job applications. It's just part of the game. And that's a good way to look at it is it's a game. And it's just about figuring out how to best play that game. And don't get discouraged with the CPA as well. It's hard. Everyone knows it's hard. So you will get through it. It's just one of those things that takes time, takes effort. And once you do, it's a great feeling. And you come out the other side definitely like a stronger person in general, not just like a better accountant. And that's the biggest thing. And just, I guess, like to everyone listening, if you have any questions about jobs or are interested in anything on HeyCPA's site, just reach out to me directly. The best place to reach me is LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active, not that active on Instagram or anything like that. So just DM me, connect with me, whatever it may be, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the advice. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And definitely there is a learning in each for each of one of us. And all the best for HeyCPA, your journey, your own journey towards this new business. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you.